Hello everyone, so today we're going to talk about assessment. And in order to do that, we need to establish the difference between evaluation and assessment. So more often than not, they are taken as synonyms, but the truth is that they cannot be used interchangeably because they have very different purposes. So on the one hand, we can say that assessment is an ongoing systematic process where teachers take information from students' learning process. So this means that everything and absolutely everything that happens in the classroom is informing us about students' understanding. Not only does it inform about how much they understand about a specific topic, but also it gives us the chance to stop, go back, and change things in order to accompany their learning. So, for example, if we have assigned them with a specific activity and we identify that they are having problems with it, we can stop, yes, highlight these difficulties, explain again, yes, in order to accompany them, and we can even provide more practice if necessary. So what assessment does is to increase the quality of students' learning process. So on the other hand, evaluation is just one moment in time. So once this process of assessment, of identifying their difficulties and strengths, going back, changing things, explaining again, providing more practice for them to improve their understanding and their skills, we take some time at the end of the unit, for example, to take a test in order to measure what they have learned. So what evaluation does is to judge the quality of their learning process. This is what makes it different from assessment. So while assessment increases the quality of their learning process, evaluation judges it. And something very important that we need to highlight is that whether we are assessing or evaluating our students, they always need to know why they are doing a specific activity. And sharing what is expected from them is extremely significant because it can be motivating, it can help them organize themselves, and it can also avoid misunderstandings because they know what your expectations as a teacher are, so that they don't take them as a surprise. All right, so when talking about assessment, we talk about formative assessment and summative assessment. Formative assessment is about all this process of identifying their weaknesses and strengths, going back, stop for a minute, explain again, providing more practice. That's why we say that it informs during instruction, because everything that happens in the classroom is telling us about students' understanding. And on the other hand, summative assessment will help us make decisions, and it informs after instruction is done, because it is a moment, yes, at the end of a specific unit, for instance, where we can decide if we can continue with a different topic or we have to continue with the same. Yes, if we can move forward or not. Right, so now the question is, what should be considered when assessing students? So in order to establish our students' level of mastery, our students' level of English in this case, we need to observe them and pay attention to their behavior, to how they work in the classroom. We can use observation checklists, for instance, for a specific activity. And we can identify their involvement, their autonomy during the activities that we present them with. And we and once we have identified their level of mastery, we can provide them with more practice if we see that we need to do so. Yes, and we, in doing so, we help them get closer to the formal evaluation at the end of the unit, and we can adapt tasks and adapt the scoring tools. Okay. So this will help us identify their strengths, weaknesses, and the achievements along the process, how much they have achieved. All right. So some advantages of these results, yes, that we can get from students is that they will help students progress academically. It can motivate them to learn, and it allows them to be more involved in their assessment process. So some of the things that should happen in the classroom when we are assessing is that, as I said before, the teacher should always share the expectations with students beforehand, before giving them a specific activity or before an exam. We have to share the criteria, yes, by which they are going to be assessed. We need to establish some constraints. Yes, by constraints we mean limitations. So for instance, if we are assigning them a writing production activity, how many words should my production have? Do I have to work individually, in pairs, in groups? How much time do I have in order to complete the task? So all these constraints should be stated in my instructions. So students should know about this. Right, and we should encourage students' autonomy. We need to provide them time, yes, and we have to make suggestions for them to improve their work. And we should also encourage self-assessment. Students should also be able to assess their own learning process. They need to be capable of identifying their own weaknesses, strengths, and achievements. Well, when talking about assessment, we can identify 5 principles. So whenever we are creating a scoring criteria, yes, we know that the instrument that we use needs to be valid. So by validity, we mean the assessment degree to which it actually measures what is intended to measure. Then the instrument has to be reliable. So this means that no matter if I created the scoring tool and another teacher is assessing my students, the results should always be more or less the same. Then we have practicality. Yes, so the instrument needs to be practical. We need to have the resources we need in order to implement assessment available. So time, space, energy, material. Right. So another principle, yes, is authenticity. Yes, our assessment tool needs to be authentic. So that the tasks that we present students with need to be appropriate for students' age, for their interests, and they should be in context or in relation to we have been teaching, yes, and also in relation to the way they have been instructed, the way in which they have been taught. All right, and finally, there should be a washback. So this means a feedback. So remember that we should always provide students with some positive remarks on their work. So we can start by providing some positive remarks on what they have done, then highlight some aspects to improve, and finish with some positive aspects once again.